Don't go away. Hey, everybody, and welcome Johnny Savage
Thank
to
you.
the
Great to
BitClout
be here.
podcast. Man, this has been cool. We've been kind of going back and forth for seems like a few weeks, emailing, like possibly talking about your new thing. But before we get into all that, let's just talk about you, man. Where are you from, and what you been doing?
Yeah, I'm from a little tiny town called Calais, Vermont. My parents were part of the mass
Okay,
exodus.
stop right there. Maple Corner.
No way, get out.
Yeah, I have
I'm
really
guessing you
good
did your
friends that
research.
own
You don't
that.
actually know it.
No, I have really close friends, well, we haven't talked in a while, that own that.
Wow.
Artie
Okay.
Artie and Nancy.
Okay. Well,
Known them for
that's
30 years, the Maple Corner store. I think it seems like that might be something you really dig because they're both musicians. They have, some, from what I can tell, like they put together some real cool music things right there. And is it Calais, is it called, or
it's callous.
Calais?
It should be Calais, but us Vermonters with our accent, we don't.
That's awesome. So yeah, I lost you there for a second, but so you were saying,
I do live. Full disclosure, I do live up in the kind of middle of nowhere.
well, that's
We're
cool.
on DSL still,
All
so
right.
uh,
Wow, man.
yeah, exactly. We're
Almost
flying.
off the
I'm
grid.
on the yeah, really close to off the grid, but yeah, I was saying that it is pronounced callous.
That's
Us
cool.
Vermonters, we really don't care for the French accent so much.
That's cool. So, and you're a musician, and tell me about your music career. That's pretty cool from what I've seen.
Yeah, my music career is, it started really young. I got into the piano at 6, but really early career was, I just became obsessed as a music fan. I just remember sitting in my room all day, just listening to albums front to back, and um, and then I got, I got mailed the BMG, like that little
Oh,
BMG
oh yeah.
music thing, and then
Mhm.
I started just like licking stamps and like throwing them on the cards, and I got like so many amazing albums in the mail. And then all of a sudden I got this bill in the mail, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna hide that from my dad. I had no clue. I thought this was like just free music. I was pretty young,
Yeah.
like 12 or 13, and eventually found out. But in the meantime, I discovered like a lot of incredible music. My cousin worked for WEAC, which was Warner Electric Atlantic Columbia at the time. He would just send me boxes of CDs, and I would just literally sit in my room listening to them front to back. And I mean, so I really, my early music career was just becoming a hardcore fan. And also, I grew up a twin, so it was like something that differentiated me from him.
Wow.
My brother probably had the same 4 albums his entire from like from like age of like 10 to you know maybe today actually, but he literally had 4 albums that he just listened to, and he was happy with that. And I was just I all I wanted to do was music discovery.
What were some of
On
those
top,
first albums you got?
oh, I was really into REM. I was into Primus. I was into early U2. I was into Pink Floyd. I was into. I mean, I would literally. I mean, there was a band called Big Audio Dynamite. I would
Oh
literally
yeah.
lick a stamp. I would literally lick a stamp based on what it looked like, what just the album cover. And no, because I
Hmm.
lived in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we had no access to. We had 3 channels from an antenna, and our radio stations were playing things from like 10 years ago. So I would literally just look at what the album cover looked like and stick the stamp and be like, that was good or that was bad. And the funny thing, like about just like talking about Big Audio Dynamite, I can't believe you heard of them, but like they were. I listened to the album and I was like, this is really weird but great. And then I didn't hear about them until I saw them on the Coachella bill,
Wow.
like I don't know,
Years later.
20 years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So wild, wild story about those guys. But then I tapped into Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic,
Oh yeah.
and that was a life changer for me. I listened to that thing on repeat nonstop, and I like all I could think about the entire time was I needed to learn how to play bass guitar. And so
Yeah.
that winter, I begged my parents for a bass for Christmas. There was a cool used music online, or not online, obviously, but magazine distributor that basically got a bunch of used instruments, and they would put this magazine together, and then you could buy it based on like had like a little key for what condition it was in. So I got like $150 used Ibanez from Junkie Music, Junkie Music, or something like that. It was really cool. Wherever it was from, I think it was somewhere on the East Coast. And yeah, it showed up in the mail. It was a little bit beat up, but it played great. And I think the first song I learned was Bob Marley, because I knew that if I jumped right into the Chili Peppers, I'd probably fail miserably. So I started learning some really basic reggae, and then
Hmm.
I was super lucky to have friends that were some of Vermont's top musicians. And while I would go over to their house, these are all total jazz heads, and I'd go over to their house and I'd be like, wow, these guys, understand a language that I just simply don't understand.
Yeah.
But they invited me in the room with them, and I was able to play very quietly. um, and I'd go watch them play shows in the weekends. I mean, these guys are still monster talents in the Northeast. And yeah, I was just really lucky to be surrounded in a community that was, at a super high. While I didn't even learn how to read music until much later, and I still actually don't really know how. I learned for a very short period of time. It was a lot of learning. Learning language is all about osmosis,
Right.
and
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
submerged myself in
You
it.
gotta kind of, yeah, I believe that immersion. I moved to Chicago for a couple of years and man, just absorbed the blues like crazy. And,
Yep.
I had gone there from Nashville and, and then I landed in Denver and it's like I had this great sort of feel for both those styles, and I would play with people that, so like for instance, play in some sort of country rock group or sit in with one and they were like, wow, you're so solid on that country rock. We can't find players that know that. And to me, it was just completely natural. And the
Hmm.
same with the blues and stuff, just having been there and been in that community, you just soak it up and you can't
You
not
do.
do it.
Yep, you do. And for me, I really, at the end of the day, like, I just want to learn how to play that album is what it felt like. So,
Did you want to
so
shave
my,
your head too?
I did want to shave my head. Although I did not have anywhere near the balls of Flea, and that's kind of another story, but
Yeah, it
just
was
in the
intense.
sense of, like, I'd never been on stage before, and so it was he was an inspiration to me, not only from watching him play music, but just watching the way he carried himself.
Yeah.
You know, the guy is superhuman in all sense of the word, and it really I mean, just watching him play was what broke me out of my shell and allowed me to really enjoy live, like playing live in front of a crowd. So I mean, I don't owe him just the the technique that he taught me and the chops, but like a lot of like life lessons and letting
Yeah.
go and enjoying life for what it's worth, which is cutting down all those inhibitions that often tell you not to do something. So
Yeah. And you went on and started a tribute band, right?
I did. So I went to college. I dropped the bass for like 4 years. I mean, I played kind of here and there, but I went for mechanical engineering, and just it turned out to be that with like a somewhat full-time job. I was just too slammed to add other things into my life. I was also, at the time, I thought I was going to be a professional mountain bike racer. Um, so I was very spread thin, training and working and trying to keep up with my grades. So I dropped music for a good 5 years, unfortunately. But then right after that, I picked it back up right out of college, started playing a bunch of original bands, really enjoyed them. It was a really great experience, but I got to be honest, like what it kind of taught me was that there's very little kind of business sense in a lot of like emotionally driven original music. A lot of the bands, and I think it's across the spectrum, of course, but like the bands I happened to play with, really had like a strong emotional drive, which I think is what makes the creativity music what it is.
Hmm.
But there wasn't a strong aspect of like, hey, we're also running a business. And I tried to kind of inject my ideas, but I realized at the end of the day, it was really the founder of the band that kind of called the shots at the end of the day. I
Yeah.
mean, I was in one band where it was incredible. We like really started writing some great music. We found this female front woman who had this insane voice, and it was a really cool, like, dual fronted band, male female, but she was the star. And as we were wrapping up our first album, I was like, hey, if we don't write her into the songs as being like the a little bit ahead of
Mm.
the male lead, like I don't think I want to be in the project, because like we're just shooting ourselves in the foot here. And so that ended up being kind of the demise of me leaving that. And right when I left that band, I was like, well, I'm a bassist who has a terrible voice, like, but I want to start my own band and run it the way I want to run it. I'm like, what options do I have? And it really became obvious. I was like, I'm just going to start a Chili Pepper tribute band. And
Yeah.
that was almost that was 11 or 12 years ago, and
Had to
still
be
running today.
great fun. Yeah, those tribute bands do well. We just saw a Prince tribute band last weekend. It was a huge crowd, and these guys have been doing it for 10 years. And I think it's clearly their full-time job, and they're on the road, all the time except during the pandemic. So pretty
It's very
cool.
lucrative, but like any band, it takes a lot of hard work. Takes
Yeah.
like managing people and managing musicians for a long period of time is tough.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it was
It's
also,
great.
speaking of kind of like new social media platforms, you know, it was a lot of learning. Like, I went through the demise of MySpace. Like, we put a ton of time and effort
Mm,
into like building a MySpace following, which just disappeared. And then I was kind of lucky to be a really early adopter of Facebook, and actually mostly Facebook ads. When they started running Facebook
mm.
ads is right when I launched the Red Knot Chili Peppers, and it really boosted us early. And the reason why was because I think they cranked up the algorithm so high to make people feel like, oh man, like this dollar of
Yeah.
advertising is going so far. And so I really rode that wave hard at the beginning, but I also saw the crash of it. I saw
Yeah.
it go from that side of the spectrum to the absolute opposite, where your money really doesn't go very far on Facebook.
Yeah.
On top of that, like the 10,000 fans I had built on Facebook pages, I had to pay to reach them now. And so like
Yeah.
I was definitely abused by it. Even though it helped me early, I felt the abuse for sure. It
Yeah.
was painful.
I own an ad agency, and we deal with it all the time. And it used to be so
Yep.
easy. That was what I liked about it. It's like, wow, we can just pop up some ads. And now it's so complicated. Like, even when I get on the phone with them, they don't know what to do. Literally, they'll
Yeah.
give us campaign strategies, and then we try them and they fail. And I'm like, well, what I was doing before worked. And they're like, well, you should probably do that. Like, well,
Yeah.
you're
No.
Facebook. You're supposed to tell me.
The only people that I've seen continue to succeed on Facebook are people that are literally at the cutting edge, like following every algorithm change and pivoting
Yeah.
weekly. And
It's a
that's just,
full-time job. It's the
yeah,
same with Google. Yeah. You have to hire somebody that's all they do. So it's frustrating as can be.
it
So
is really frustrating.
now are we going to be the new gurus of the BitClout ad world?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there ever will be ads on BitClout, but
Well, but
I
I
think
disagree. There will be a new form of outreach that people pay for. I don't know how it's going to manifest,
true,
but people
true,
are going
very
to find
true.
a way, and maybe it's a decentralized version of that, which would be cool. But it's going to be interesting to see how this monster, evolves.
Yeah, I totally agree with that statement for sure.
Cool. So let's talk about
Yeah,
how bands and artists get on the platform. You guys are poised to help do that, right?
we are. Originally I didn't think of onboarding as a huge part of our business model. Um, when I came up with the idea of AudioNode, it was, well, actually, I came up with the idea of creating a stock market for bands like 6 years ago. And it was just one of those ideas that I could never really figure out. But I still kept in the back of my mind. And I have a good friend that works at Golden Voice, and him and I are always pitching ideas back and forth about music. And I probably told him about the idea for the sixth time or something when we were having beers around a campfire the day before Easter, this past Easter. And I had actually just gotten off the phone with a lawyer talking about, hey, how can I pull this stock market for bands idea off? And I had just gotten out of a startup that I co-founded, and I had some like pretty strong sense of a way to accomplish it, but it required like a lot of like legal voodoo and creating C corps for bands
Mm,
that probably don't want you to create a C corp for them. I mean, it
right.
was messy. Like if you think early BitClout onboarding was tough, like this would have been a huge hurdle.
Right.
And so then during that conversation, he told me about BitClout, and that was basically what changed everything. I dove into it the next day, and I was like, this basically solves every issue I have for creating a stock market for bands. And so I went into it with that mentality and started working right away on that idea. But then I quickly realized that the big hurdle before a viable stock market was possible was onboarding artists and onboarding fans in mass. So we kind of pivoted to going strong into the onboarding side. And during the kind of my research of watching previous artists on that, everyone was kind of, I felt like everybody was doing it wrong. And I don't want to say that as like I in a cocky way, but I think what happened was artists were convinced to go on the platform. They sure weren't. They still weren't like sure of the viability of the platform, and I think they still, could be argued they still are unsure. So they would go in. They'd be like, I want to be a part of this, but I only got like $1,000 cash to throw at this because I just don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
And so, they'd buy very little of their coin. And for a big artist, that meant that there was a huge opportunity for people out there looking to invest. And so you would see, massive investments, in the $500,000 range going into these artists, depending on the size of them. And what that did is allowed, very small number of people to own a huge stake. And then, so now, later on, like minutes later or a couple of days later, you have a bunch of fans who are like, oh, wow, they're on there. And then they start putting in their $10 or $100, and then they just get taken for a ride from those earlier whales who you know pull their they do a rug pull, and then everyone gets excited because the price was low again, and then they throw their money back in, and so they're basically just profiting off of the little guys. And so I kind of looked at a number of different artists who had done it that way and realized we have to change this soon, or else artists aren't going to want to be on here, and fans definitely aren't going to want to be on here. And so the kind of, I pulled from some of my experience in private equity, having just been through, fundraising for a startup only, like a year before. And I was like, we got to create some kind of like, seed fundraising pool. And that's kind of where the idea pivoted from, okay, we'll create the node for the stock market for bands so people can kind of see a visual, but really where our effort has to be is helping artists onboard and really helping them ICO the right way.
Yeah, stock market for bands. I hadn't heard that yet. I mean, that reminds me of um, the stock market for athletes or trading cards that um, Nigel Eccles discussed. That he literally
Hmm.
has that.
Yep.
I can't remember what it's called. We were talking about it on a podcast recently, and I never have considered that. How are there similarities there?
I haven't I mean, I've dove into the Flick app, but in terms of his other projects, I haven't dove into them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a gaping hole out there for what I'm doing, what AudioNode is doing, for athletes, for sure. I mean, and that's the whole point of running a node, is that the intention is that there is a stock market for bands, there's a stock market for athletes, there's a stock market for every little subgroup. And the reason why it's so powerful, why nodes are so powerful, and the dev team of BitClout is well aware of this, is because when you're able to focus the vision of BitClout down a little bit. Because I mean, if you the kind of analogy I use is, if like you're looking on the trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange, it's already chaos as it is, and we're trading like oil futures and like
Yeah.
things that are pretty like predictable and have some kind of economic movement behind it that we can analyze. But when we're looking at the trading floor of BitClout, it's literally everybody from Carol Baskin to Justin Bieber to like Joey down the street. And
Right.
so it's absolute chaos. And so I think, and it's fun chaos, and I think we all love that part of it. But the point of a node is to filter it down so that it's a little bit more digestible for the general public. And so, for AudioNode, we're filtering it just to musicians. And what it's going to allow us to do is essentially run major ad spends to music fans outside of the BitClout bubble and have them land on our site and have it make a lot more sense. So like not only are we going to target people who want to invest in bands, but they're going to land on our site and they're not going to see the bitclout.com where there's kind of everything and everybody, but they're just going to see the musicians and be able to, trade musician coins. And so that's the power of the node, is the fact that you're able to filter down the overall content and data that BitClout offers, but you're able to present it in a way playing at somebody outside the BitClout bubble and easily
Yeah.
advertise to them. So, I mean, when you see the dev team really excited about what Nigel is doing, the reason is because that's where mass adoption happens. It happens when people get money outside of BitClout for a BitClout project, and node spin-off that are well funded and really start pushing mass adoption.
How do they get money outside of BitClout? Through your
Traditionally, coming up with an idea, proving it, or maybe even not proving it. Like a guy like Nigel, he can just come up with an idea and he'll have investors' ears easily.
Sure.
Luckily, with the position I was in, having recently started a company from an idea into a VC-backed company in a very short period of time. I also learned the ropes of venture capital, and
Sure.
that's what I'll be using as well.
All right. So what I like about what you were describing is, because we're all, we all see it, and you articulated it very well. But it's the idea where early on I was excited about, wow, I could invest in maybe this influencer who looks a little undervalued,
Mm-hmm.
but you can only do so much of that, and you get this FOMO every time you hear, oh, Madonna just joined and put in $400,000 in her coin, or so and so just joined. I mean, all these influencers just appear,
Right.
and the average person goes, well, doggone, I would have liked to have had a piece of that. Well, now if
Mm-hmm.
I buy that coin that was $1,000 last week is now 10,000, and now I'm so diluted I don't even know if I want to play there.
Right.
How are you doing that? How do you foresee like a band coming on? Is there a pool people jump in on another BitClout account that then takes part in that? How does that work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all spelled out in our white paper, but I can definitely go through the details. Yeah, essentially what we do is, so an artist comes to us and they say we'd like to join BitClout. We kind of use current market data to understand what the right coin price, ICO coin price would be for them.
The current
And
BitClout market data?
yes, yeah. So I mean, it's hard now. We don't have a ton of data to pull from, but we can at least get somewhat close. And so, and we want to undershoot it a little bit because we want people to be excited about the investment opportunity. But whatever number we pick, let's say it, is $500 per coin price, then there's a certain investment amount that's required to reach that coin price. We ask the artist, of that investment amount, how much money would you like to put in yourself? They can say the entire amount, and that kind of cuts everyone else out of the equation, and that's their own prerogative. But usually they'll probably come in, under that, and so that basically leaves a certain amount of equity that we can make up for. And the way we make up that amount is through our founding team has the opportunity to invest in that band before ICOs. And so the band basically they get the first chunk of equity on what they pay, and that's one set coin price, right? We get the next higher coin price, and that's based on the ICO price and how many people we get involved in that, and how much equity we need to make up. So our founding team gets basically the opportunity to make up some of that equity, and then the top 20% of AudioNode coin holders also get the opportunity to invest in pre-ICO in that artist at an even rate that the founding team does. And so that's how we make up the equity to ICO at the price that we think is a good price for that artist. Every once in a while, we're going to do some pretty cool special events where we like open up a pre-ICO pool to all of AudioNode coin holders, or sometimes just anybody. And the cool thing is we're able to do that because of all these tools that the dev team kind of put out for us. The ability to transfer coins, the ability to move your founder's reward from 100% down to whatever you want. I mean, essentially, when I say ICO, what I'm referring to is a coin or a user changing their founder's reward from 100% at sign up down to below 100%. And as an ICO, as soon as it's open to the public to own a part of their coin, is what I'm considering an ICO.
All right, and you had a little bit of bandwidth issue there, so I want to make sure I got that last statement clear. Could you say that again?
Yeah, so all the ICO, when I refer to an ICO, what I'm saying is an artist who onboards, once they move their founder's reward down from 100%, that's what I'm considering an ICO. So, a new artist signs up, we pick that coin price that we think is a fair market value. The artist puts in their cash. We put in our cash from the founders team, and the top 20% AudioNode. And then
how do you do that when their founder's reward is at 100?
Trust and transfers, coin transfers. So
Okay, so they in sort of behind the scenes, there's now a movement of that creator coin back to the, we'll call them the pool, the AudioNode whales.
Yep, I wouldn't call them whales. I mean, the point of having the top 20% of our coin holders all be able to access that is we're basically putting in a little bit of money from a lot of people. But yeah, it's basically all handled through at 100% founders reward transferring coin.
And it's the top 20% of people in the population of AudioNode, not the top 20% of the equity in the people with the top 20% of the coins in an AudioNode.
Yep, they get access to the pre-ICO pool, but we're also doing special events that open up to any holders of the AudioNode coin, and we'll do some special events where it'll be open to anybody who happens to be listening. So we're trying to be inclusive while setting up a stable ICO process. And the reason that we can't have it always be open to anybody is because we're also requiring the top 20% and all the founding team, anybody who's in that kind of what I'm calling the seed kind of fundraising round before ICOs, they're all required to hold that artist coin for 90 days. And so obviously I can force those people to hold the coin for 90 days by, if they violate it, I can kick them out of the syndicate, so to speak. But when we do special events and open up to a large amount of people, there's no way I can control that. So that's why the majority of our ICOs will be done, with a syndicate versus special events. But I still want to do a lot of special events to where everybody feels like they're involved.
So what about how much of this is going to be automated, like when you're dealing with the administration of it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is the challenge for the dev team at the moment. I mean, we did our AudioNode's ICO was basically testing out this entire system. So we set up, we picked a coin price that we wanted to hit, and we set up the same process that we're going to use for artists. And it was interesting. We learned a lot from the process. I literally learned like 15 minutes before the event happened that you couldn't do coin buys at 100%. So you could only do coin transfers. So in the heat of the moment, I had people wait on Clubhouse for 8 a.m. on Pacific for our coin ICO, and we had a big countdown and everything. And it was really exciting. But behind the scenes, I was scrambling trying to adjust our plan because I didn't realize you couldn't buy at 100%. So in the future, we'll be doing transfers, which solves that. But in the heat of the moment, I was like, okay, I'm moving it down to 99%. Everybody who's in the pre-ICO pool, put your money in now. And a bunch of people on Clubhouse, I think, caught wind of it, even though I didn't say it out loud, and started jumping in at 99% founders reward. So from an administration side, it really threw a wrench into the mix. But the beauty of it is, with coin transfers, you can adjust everything after the fact and get back to the original equity split that you all agreed to beforehand.
All right. So I'm looking at the site here, and you have, I want to go to the top and see which one. I'm going at the for fans portion of it, and you see
Perfect.
sort of this layout of the list of artists. You've got some different tabs for everybody, every sort of music creator. Then you've got it broken down into bands, DJ producers, and then a watch list. So I see these verified, orange verified. Does that mean that BitClout has verified them, or is it part of your AudioNode verification? Like, I understand you guys are going to
Yeah,
do your own
that's part of our AudioNode verification.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here, like Blau, did you guys go through the process with him, or?
No, his status should be verified with like a gray square. Is that right or wrong?
No, I see it. It's an orange. It says orange. It's an orange block on the status. So I take this to mean it's
yeah, right.
their BitClout
Yes.
verification.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, it is orange now. I forgot about that. Yeah. So the orange square or rectangle means it's BitClout verified. If you go up to the status filter, you can click on AN verified, and those are the artists that we're starting to verify through our third-party process. And the idea is, well, I mean, the general idea for the fans section for the the database that we built is, to what we're doing. I think maybe the first ones to do it is we're linking outside BitClout data to inside BitClout data. So by linking something as simple as Spotify followers, we're basically combining music industry data with BitClout coin price data. And so the intention behind that is eventually to have real music industry data drive coin price, and that's like a long-term vision. Obviously, we're not going to be there for a little while, but the greater intention is that the more well-informed traders are, the more stability you'll have in the market. And so by adding some kind of real market data that people can tie directly to coin price, we're hoping that adds a bit more stability. ICOs, doing ICOs the right way is adding a huge amount of stability to the market, but long term, people need information to drive decisions. Like right now, a lot of the trading on BitClout is just day traders taking advantage of volatility, which is something that every market has. Even every stock market on earth has that, right? So, but it's a greater proportion on BitClout right now, and that's just an assumption. I don't know the data on that, but I feel like it's a pretty educated assumption. Eventually, coin prices are going to be much more driven by music or industry data, whether it's music industry, influencer industry, sporting industry, and so by starting that process, we are trying to inform traders to add stability. For the verification process, that at the end of the day, BitClout is not going to be handling verifications for everybody who onboards. It's not a scalable model, and I think they're already basically pushing that responsibility onto nodes. And so we kind of recognized early on that was going to be our responsibility. And, no trader wants to put their money in something that they don't know is a real account. And, going back to the original conversation of Clubhouse and how BitClout started, and a lot of the domain trading folks who exist on the BitClout platform. I mean, there's 200,000 plus accounts on there. I think they're at 300,000 actually. And it's really clear with only having like 10 to 20,000 active users a day that a lot of those accounts are just being held for, future profit, so to speak.
Right.
So, verification process is absolutely critical. BitClout's not going to be the ones that do that full, into the future. And so we're basically starting the process by doing our own.
Right. And it seems to me that if this works, you're going to bring a lot of people to the platform.
Yep.
This is the, the watershed moment that I've always, looked forward to from the very beginning, is like, when do these big influencers bring their fans over?
Mm-hmm.
And I still contend that it's not going to make a difference until some of these creators, pick a big band that you bring on. How do you counsel them on fully engaging with their audience off this platform, and then when you get them to the platform? And what I mean by that is, what can they do substantially to not, I don't want to say compel, but incentivize their followers to come over to BitClout, because there's ways for them to engage that they can't on other platforms. Like, do you have strategies that you'll be working with them on?
To be honest, when it comes to larger artists, there's still going to be some time before we fully recommend them bring their entire fan base on. We have to add stability to the market first, because the last thing an artist is going to want to do is bring their fan base over and have them lose money. And so until there's a bit more stability in the market, then it's going to be really hard for me to wholeheartedly tell an artist, hey, go blast your fans and bring them on. Because I mean, like, you have a lot of these artists have age ranges that go pretty
Sure.
young, and so they're very cognizant of that, and going to be very protective of the nature that this is real money we're talking about. And so, before the BitClout hit the exchange, it wasn't even on my radar to talk to bands about that, because it'd just be too much of hit the believe button, right? But now it's on the exchange, which very recent. It's definitely been on our radar more. We still need to convince artists that the market is stable enough to where the majority of their fans are going to have an enjoyable experience. And I think really the focus for us now is start by onboarding a lot of artists, get them to ICO the right way, to the point where there's some stability in their coin price, and it's just not being day traded like crazy. And then once they see that stability, then the next conversation is, okay, this feels like a good time to bring on your fans. So
Sure. So that's part of the strategy then. But
yes.
but that's what I'm referring to is, the coin price can never be like, no creator's coin price can be stable, because it is pegged to BitClout's coin price. So there's a component that means there's nothing you can do to control, stability in your, in that relation. But and I understand when you talk about how you're getting your fans to come on board, and those fans stand to lose value or money or whatever you want to call it in whatever they do. But if you can make it purely transactional instead of speculative, like, I'm doing this drop of a remix of this big hit that we just did, and it's only available on BitClout for X amount, in dollars, maybe, or BitClout. I don't know, but somewhere where it's just you give this, you get this.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's even, you also get 2 diamonds, 3 diamonds from us. You get a portion of our creator coin, where it's purely a give instead of take. That's what I mean by, incentivizing people. Like it's going to have to happen slowly, but I think when an artist can say, I'm making an exclusive thing that, I'd love for you to take part if you want. And I don't know. I know it's going to be a long evolution, but at some point, some people like yourself have to start strategizing on what a artist can do other than just join, say, "Oh, I started my BitClout. See you later," which is what we've witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
And or even just they don't even claim their profile. They just put a lot of money in it and get everybody happy, and then they never show up. They never do anything for months. So at some point, this is where I see it really changing is when artists have to evolve in how they use this if it's going to work. They have to evolve in how they it's not just, oh, I'm going to put this little, cool thing on here, this content. It's more transactional now, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's a whole another world out there that can drive fans to BitClout. I don't think AudioNode is going to be a huge part of that. My personal belief is that the real lightning in the bottle, for at least for our own brand, and when we're talking about doing outreach to the general public through advertising, is simply the ability to be able to own a portion of your favorite band. Like be taken along for the ride that
But there
your
again,
favorite. Yeah.
but see, that's exactly what you described would be a bad thing if you're trying to advertise to them to become a part of that band, and it's so speculative.
No, I'm just saying it's very the day trading and the speculation and the poorly done ICOs right now, volatility
Yeah,
that is to the point where the majority of fans would not enjoy the process. But I mean, I think that's going to change really quickly.
right.
So, um, I mean, I think you're right. There's a lot of things that we could do in the meantime to drive fans to just for like exclusive content stuff. I'm just saying that my personal belief is that that's not the lightning in the bottle of BitClout, or what I feel like is the major perk of AudioNode and our vision.
Sure.
I think there are a lot of other artists on the platform that have that exactly in mind, and they're going to tackle that and probably do
Yeah.
a great job. Um, but I personally think that it's the trading and the owning a piece of your favorite artist is what we're focused on, and that's what's going to, for AudioNode, that's where our mass adoption is going to come from.
Yeah. What it's going to evolve for sure. How do you think in the obviously this is a young thing. This is a new quick development you've done. How has it evolved since the inspiration for it to the execution? How did you did you have to make massive pivots along the way?
Yes, I mean, surprisingly not, and I think it was because I came in with such a general idea of like this is going to be a stock market for bands.
Yeah.
So luckily that hasn't changed, but the actual the details of it have. I mean, we were scraping BitClout data from the site before the fire hose was turned on. So our dev team was already working on pulling data, and then we had to, obviously, when all the code was released for the fire hose, we pivoted quickly and then launched the node as fast as we could. So there's been a lot of pivots on the way. Like I said, again, like I was really excited to right off the bat start kind of like blasting music fans around the world, being like, "Hey, check out BitClout through AudioNode,"
Yeah.
and so after seeing, after realizing that we're maybe not quite there yet, even though I really feel like it's in the very very near future. Pivoting towards really focusing on onboarding and ICOing the right way. That was probably the biggest pivot we've made. But it's all for the good of the community. It's all for the good of artists. So it's only helping everybody. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of realizing that we're not quite there yet, and where can we put our resources and our time and expertise right now, which doesn't take us away from our original vision, but helps us get there and helps
Yeah.
everybody get there. So those have been the real pivots.
Yeah. When do you think the first sort of real world use case is undertaken with this, with a real band and an
I mean,
ICO
we plan on doing an ICO every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific. So
starting next Wednesday?
starting, yeah, starting
Wow.
next Wednesday. And I'm not saying that it's going to be huge artists, but
Right.
I mean, they're going to be they're not unknown artists. I'll say
Right.
that. Personally, I think that is also the kind of the what will be the bread and butter of at least what we're doing is you know people being a part of an already like, especially when you're talking about investing, like investing in a stock that's already like through the moon is not as exciting as investing in an artist that has like insane potential and is already making waves, but maybe not everybody knows about them yet. So I think that's going to be kind of our wheelhouse for a little while.
Hmm.
And it's easier to work with those artists because there's less legal teams. And I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
these big artists, you're talking like a huge team of people that all have to sign off on this idea. And so, I mean, if we were to go after those, we'd be spending so much of our time and energy in a room with these folks that we wouldn't be able to offer what we want to offer, which is
Yeah.
an artist every Wednesday. So,
Right.
um, I mean, there's a couple different aspects to that, but I think it's the right focus at first, and it also allows us to like knock our training wheels off. I mean, if you were there behind the scenes during our ICO, AudioNode's ICO, I mean, we learned a lot, and
Yeah.
I would never want to put an artist through something that I haven't been through myself.
Right.
And so I rate artists, but I also want to do a few more with artists that are a little bit more flexible and a little bit more have a little more leniency. Because at the end of the day, like the dev team's throwing out changes all the time. Like I swear I used to be able to buy a coin at 100% founders reward, and finding out like 20 minutes before the ICO that it wasn't possible. I just we need to kick those training wheels off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's definitely part of it. I mean, yeah, I guess all those aspects, but that is the plan, is to ICO someone every Wednesday at 8 a.m. And the cool thing is, if you were there in the clubhouse for our ICO,
I was. Yeah.
there was palpable excitement. It felt,
Yeah.
and maybe it wasn't. I know it was a lot me because I just went through a lot of stuff the previous hour, trying to get all the money in place and everybody on the same page. But I think people felt it too in the crowd, and I was like thinking to myself, I was like, man, if our ICO was exciting, like imagine what a major artist is going to be like,
Oh,
and where like you have
yeah.
like real diehard fans of these people. I mean, it's going to be really fun.
Hmm. And that top 20 coin holders, is it uh, anyone in there, no matter their ranking, can jump in on it, or is it a
Yeah, it's a
tiered
top
thing?
20%. So
But
rather than just 20,
if I'm the bottom end of that, do I have to wait till the top end of that
if you're at the
band?
bottom end of that, you have to wait until we do a special event. But the other side
No,
of it
I mean
is,
the bottom of the
oh
20%. Like I hold the
no, no,
least of the
right.
20%. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So the way that works is you basically pay the same dollar per coin prices as the rest of the 20%. It's equalized among everybody.
I see.
So, and we're able to do that through coin transfers.
Okay.
So you're basically you're buying in at the exact same coin price as everybody else in the top 20%, including the founding team at AudioNode, if we so choose to buy in as well. On top of that, one thing I didn't mention was that, I'm going to be part of the pre-ICO pool as well, and basically all of my artist held coin is basically going to be handed off to a professional trader, and after 90 days, they're going to be trading, you know, these coins in a much more intelligent manner than I could. And so essentially what's going to be happen is, that portion is kind of going to turn into like a music ETF of sorts. And then basically all the gains from that get are going to be put back into buying AudioNode coins. So
All right. So,
what
and
that will
which
yeah.
one is that? That's the Johnny Savage.
Yeah, I think I'm going to create a separate that's kind of in the white paper. I basically said my
Mhm.
investment percentage. I'm going to create a separate account just so that it's very clear. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't get mixed with my personal dealings. So I'm creating a separate account where that'll all
Right.
be held, and people can see. It'll be 100% founders reward, but people can see the coin movement and the trades on there publicly. And essentially what that's going to do is, so all the gains from that account are going to be used to buy more AudioNode coin. And so essentially what that does is it basically
Drives the
gives
price of audio
it
node.
drive it does it drives it up, but it also gives the non 20% holders essentially indirect access at the advantages of the pre ICO pool. So like if you're a long-term holder at AudioNode coin and you're not in the 20%, you're basically still part of that pre ICO pool indirectly. And so that was kind of a feature I added last minute to really try to make it feel equitable for all of our followers and coin holders.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hold some audio nodes, so full disclosure. But it was purely because I was in that clubhouse room and, I'm a friend of Thor's and, he just tends to get people pumped up and I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah,
'Cause I love
he's great.
music and audio and all of that. But,
Yep.
all right. So we'll end with a nerd question. Like how much do you really get into having to think through the bonding curve in all of this?
A lot, and that's because of, when you're dealing with pre-ICO pools, that's the equation that you're basing all of your data off of to be able to, tell the artists how much equity they, or when they put in the amount they want to put in, it basically tells you how much is left over. So without the bonding curve, you wouldn't be able to make that
Yeah.
calculation.
So
So
is this literally a spreadsheet you use or how do
yeah,
you yeah.
yeah, yeah. The I think I .bitclout.com, the dev team sheet, and I just modified it for
Wait, say that
my
again. I lost you
purposes.
there I
So,
lost you. You use what again?
yeah, so the dev team put out a spreadsheet on docs.bitclout.com. I think it's right in the same paragraph where they talk about the bonding curve. They have a
Mhm.
link to a spreadsheet. I basically copied and pasted that into my own, and just modified it to basically work for what we want to
Yeah.
use it for.
I gotta dig into that. And because I asked that nerdy question because my last episode was with Prosper Clout, and
Hmm.
he kind of walked me through that, how, what happens when you buy a coin and the amount you
Yep.
put in it. He's got a calculator on Prosper Clout for that, which
Yep.
we don't, the average person just doesn't consider it that way. They just look at it as wholesale value, like, oh, it's $250 a coin. I'm going to buy one. And then they find out, well, they really got, 0.92 of a coin or something
Right.
like that. So, boy, that's a lot of calculations you guys have to deal with. But that's where automation is going to have to prevail, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of math, right? Is that
Yeah.
it can all be programmed, and our dev team is working on new features for the coin analysis tools, but the other half of it is working on kind of the back end, how we you know cut out some of the time and effort it takes to do these ICOs, and automate
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah. Cool. Johnny Savage, former wrestler, MMA fighter. No, it just sounds like your name ought to be that.
hey, I wouldn't say former. You never know. I mean,
Yeah, really.
I'm
Have to have a
40, but
BitClout wrestle down, with
I feel yeah, I feel like
you
I'm
and Thor.
reaching wrestle age soon. I feel like all those guys are like 50 years old.
I
So
know.
like
Yeah.
my prime wrestling career hasn't even started.
All
Yeah,
right.
maybe Thor and I can have a little WrestleMania sometime. He
Yeah.
seems like he'd be
He'd
a
do it.
reputable. He would do it. He would do it, and he seems like he would take
He's
it very seriously. So I'm a
yeah.
little bit scared, actually.
Yeah. He's a big dude. So, and looks great in a suit. So here I
Yeah,
was.
right.
He helped me out at the Miami Bitcoin conference. And so I was like, here's a media pass. Come give me a hand on some things. And of course he shows up in his, custom suit. And
Right.
he told me, because I gave him his media, credentials the day before. He said, I didn't even use them. I just walked in. He said, it's the suit.
Totally. I mean, it's so true. I mean, I love that guy, just not only for his like confidence, but the guy just has a huge heart, and
Yeah.
oh man, like, and just to give a shout out to all the rest of the folks on our team. I mean, I was working with Thor almost since the beginning. Our dev team is out of Costa Rica. They're 5E. They're incredible. I mean, anyone else can jump on the phone with them and help. I mean,
Yeah.
they could help you spin up a node really quickly.
I want to learn. I'm
Yeah,
going to be hitting you up on that stuff.
you should.
But what you're saying just makes me think about how lucky I am to get to do what I do, because there are some guests I've had where I just was like on a whim go, I'm going to get that guy. So think early on we had little, context. Thor was one of those. There's, several others where I look back now and go, man, I'm really glad I got them, because look what
Hmm.
they've done. I just kind
Yep.
of got them on a whim. It just seemed like they would be fun to have on. And then you see their trajectory on the platform, and I'm going to be saying that about Johnny Savage in, 6 weeks. I'm like, man, I'm glad I got him on here. But
I hope so.
yeah, it's just kind of cool how that works. So going to keep following AudioNode, and I'm hitting you up too, as, figure out this node issue.
Definitely do. I mean, to be honest, the more nodes, the more ideas that are out there, the better for everyone.
Yeah. Info is going to be in the show notes, but it's AudioNode. So it's audionode.de. What is
That's
that?
right.
Is that Germany? What is DE?
Well, I actually stole it from, I don't know, is it Denmark? I have no clue.
I don't
I
know.
actually stole the idea from kind of the startup world. My brother was one of the founding part of the founding team at Lime, which is that scooter company. And they just ditched the whole lime.com thing and just went to li.me.
That's
And
cool.
so, at the end of the day, it looks pretty sexy on as a link. It's
Yeah.
not super sexy telling people about it.
Right.
But I mean, how do we access most of the internet? We just click links. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
happy with it.
Right. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I've got, my company is Molto, MOLTO, and I finally got MOL.to. I've had it for a year and a half. I haven't figured out what to do with it, but it's just cool to have because it's so easy to tell people. But um,
totally.
good
Love
work
it.
on that. All right, Johnny. Thank you, man.
Yeah.